The Isle of Man, a tiny little island in the middle of the Irish Sea, the gem of God's earth, due in 1869. But just how much do you know about the place you call home? Hi there. My name is Penny Farthing, and I'm inviting you to join me as I unravel thread by thread the rich tapestry of the Isle of Man's historical scarf in my series Woman on Man. I aim to penetrate everything from the ghosts haunting the Gaiety Theatre to the Bee Gees and reveal all just for you in a way that can be enjoyed by the whole family. So join me, Penny Farthing, for the latest episode of Woman on Man, a live Tynwald Day special coming to you very soon on Tynwald Day. Or listen back to previous episodes in the podcast section at manxradio.com. Hiya! I'm Penny Farthing. You might remember me from the charming promo you just heard, or from my previous episodes of Woman on Man, which have been described by the World Wide Web as unfound because they've been removed from all platforms. You may also remember me from when I found newsworthy fame as a teenager after a doctor touched me inappropriately. Either way, welcome to this special live episode of Woman on Man. But first, broadcasting online on smartphone apps on Anthem and Dab, this is Manx Radio News with
Fast am I. It's
with
not
Ralph Pritstick.
It's not possible to tackle the shortage of air traffic controllers at Ronaldsway by recruiting from other professions. That's from Chief Minister Alfred Cannon following concerns over the recent disruption at the Arnons Airport. The runway is currently being closed 7 days a week in order to ensure ATC staff have time for their mandatory breaks. The Council of Ministers will discuss the issue in 2030. An ex-King William's College student has been awarded an MBE for her contributions to charitable organisations. 20-year-old Fruscia Bruckenheimer has volunteered with Privileged Poor since she was just 6 months old. During her 11 years with the organisation, she's donated more than £36 to people on the streets from her own trust fund. Fruscia says just being nominated for an MBE is an honour. A 30-year-old woman has been remanded in custody after trying to smuggle more than £40,000 of MDMA onto the island. Rebecca Swift of Portney, Isle of Man, appeared at Douglas Courthouse where she admitted possessing the Class A drug. The court heard Miss Swift hid 150 individually wrapped sachets of the substance in her vagina. Tessa Hawley has more.
It feels really, really good. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a massive relief to get it all out of me. I was sworn to secrecy from the beginning, but it's great for it all to be out in the open and to finally be able to be recognised for this achievement. I mean, even just being nominated for an MBE is... wow.
Sorry about that, folks. Wrong clip there. Moving on to the international headlines. Footage has emerged seeming to show Conservative Party staff at a party during lockdown. In the video obtained by the Reflection newspaper, a couple can be seen dancing to Wham's Club Tropicana. Taylor Swift fans can now get tickets for her latest concert. She's bringing her Eras tour to Edinburgh, Liverpool, Cardiff and London next summer.
When addressing the court, Ms Swift, who's set to serve an 84-year term in Derby prison, explained how she did exercises to strengthen her pelvic floor. These, she said, helped her transport the MDMA without having to use her rectum.
And a troop of more than 80 ducks and their ducklings were seen crossing the road next to a ducks crossing sign in the Cotswolds. They were spotted by Year 2 pupils from Darlington Primary, who are now receiving CBT counselling after the ducklings were run over by a blue WKD van, leaving no survivors. Manx Radio News at 5 minutes past 9, are next at 11. In the meantime, keep up to date by following Manx Radio on www.browser.net, Firefox, MySpace...
Cheers, Rufus. Welcome back to this special live episode of... Welcome back to this special live episode of...
Manx Radio Weather with Manx Glass and Glazing.
Sid has a very quick live weather for you now. Faster, my Sid.
Yes, hello, Faster my, good evening. There's an exciting shaft of weather coming in overnight that will trickle into tomorrow. There are no weather warnings in place and visibility is fair, with a very small fleeting risk of sea fog tomorrow afternoon, morning and night.
Thanks, Sid.
Low pressure over Iceland, bringing us south-northeast westerly over the Caribbean Sea and around areas of the Irish Sea. Wind south or north 3 or 4, becoming variable 2 or 3. That's the word. Or, not the boat. Or
Penny.
overnight.
Penny. The mic is on.
The mic's on? All right.
Sea state is smooth and or rough. Weather fair, but also grey, with a 2% chance of rain and an 80% chance of lightning.
Wife left him for offence,
Manx
you know.
Radio Weather.
Said his wife
with
left
Manx
him for
Glass and
offence.
Glazing.
Right, welcome back. Finally. I'm Penny Farthing, and thank you, dear listener, for joining me in this. It's the latest episode of Woman on Man, and it's a little bit different to previous episodes that you've no doubt listened to and enjoyed multiple times because you can listen back on demand at manxradio.com. This episode is being done in what experts describe as live format, which means everything you hear is happening right now, in this very moment. And this one. And this one. And this one. Rather than happening in dead time in the past or in the future. It also means if anyone swears, we're f***ed. Birthdays! We all have them, unless you're adopted. Even countries, would you believe? Including the very place
This is your reminder to take your thrush medicine.
Ignore that. Including the very place you call home. In today's episode, I'm going to be filling in your holes with, argumentally, one of the biggest days in the Manx calendar. England has Burns Night. Wales has St. George's Day. Even Mexico has Dia de Muertos. And the Isle of Mun has... Drumroll, please. Tynwald Day!
An opera with an attractive, albeit a fairly far-fetched plot.
Sake, I'm here speaking to you from the Manx Radio studio, where I was led to believe this live episode of Woman on Man was taking place. But after rereading the texts, sober, I've realised there's been some miscommunication, and I'm actually supposed to be here at Tynwald Day in real time at the top of Tynwald Day Hill,
Get
where
down
tens
from
of
there,
people
for God's
have
sake!
flocked to bask in traditions that are thousands
We
of years
told you
old.
to get down from
No,
there.
get off! Get off! You're not allowed to touch me! Get off! I won't go back to jail again! No! Modern day Tynwald is a national bank holiday for anyone living on the Isle of Man. And those people who don't have a social life or family and friends who want to see them usually come here, to St Mark's, especially for the ceremony, which mainly involves lower-ranked royalty no one's heard of rubbing shoulders with local politicians, known as M&Cos, such as Sarah Maltloaf, Tin Bakery and Jason Moore questions. The day also involves a lot of traditional Manx pastimes, like traditional Manx dancing and crafts, which were made popular by the Nicolas Cage version of the film The Wicker Man. The open-air ceremony happens inside a church, a kind of big, cold, uncomfortable building. This is where all the important people in top knots and tailcoats go, while the peasants wait outside in either the baking sun or pouring rain. Being one of the important ones, I'm speaking to you from the church, where the action is already underway, and the blood of...
And the blood of Christ has already started to flow, thanks to Tynwald Day sponsors Wine Bite. Wine Bite is an accessible, family-friendly liquor store, open 24/7, 368 days a year. With 872 locations around the Isle of Man, you're never too far away from a cup of Christ. The omnipresent local company offers all kinds of special biblical wines to go with everything from christenings to sacrificial ceremonies. Not only does Wine Bite's wines improve vision and aid walking, the store also boasts a large range of Noah's Ark Body of Christ bread to help line your stomach. So call now on 01624 999 and let Wine Bite bless your event today.
All sacrificial wines and breads currently sold out. Users must be over the age of 6. Tynwald Day may be the oldest running parliament in the world, but the next part of the church ceremony sees the Emencos continue to try and modernise and really appeal to younger generations, this time through the power of popular music, as in the past trying to give kids their Manx knobs resulted in 3/4 of the House of Keys receiving restraining orders. Now, this is a collective performance. Each and every member of government is taking part in this, and they've put it together to really try and garner more votes from the youth of the Isle of Man. And I have been told by Speaker of the House of Alicia Keys, Ewan Turner, they've been working solidly on perfecting this performance for the past 78 months. And they are being conducted in today's performance by John Moomenberg.
Had one shot or one opportunity to seize everything you ever wanted, one moment, would you capture it or just let it slip? Yo.
After the songs, the bishop asks the choir boys to kneel in front of him in prayer, while the rest of the church stand with their eyes closed. But enough about the nowadays Tynwald. I am going to take you back in time for a peeping Tom look at the history of Tynwald Day instead. So, jump on board my time jetpack and let's go penetrate the historical orifice of the Isle of Man's birthday. Hello, I'm now speaking to you from past time, a kind of time where things have already happened and aren't happening in the here and now, in this special live episode of Woman on Man. Tynwald Day is known to be one of the dullest, fullest days in the Isle of Mun's calendar. And, no, I forgot my club card. And it's celebrated Tynwald Day the same way every year on the same day every year. The 4th of July. Originating back to 1996, Tynwald Day is also known by some as Independence Day, as it's when the Isle of Man was liberated from extraterrestrial dictatorship thanks to Will Smith. And Manx radio archivists have actually managed to dig out some original recordings from that very day. Let's have a listen.
While you was in there playing around, I was down here doing all the work. You know, first I had to beat him in the head with this big rock, then I was going to hit him with this 2x4.
Fantastic. What a day for the Isle of Man. Historians will tell you this isn't true, because it isn't. But it is a lot more interesting than the actual history. The Tynwald Day is a ceremony that has remained consistent and unchanged for over thousands of years. No other parliament has...
Hi, sorry to bother you. Do you mind if me and the baby sit there, please?
No, I've got a bad hip. No other parliament has such an unbroken record or lack of progression with the needs of modern times. The annual outdoor sittings of Tynwald are said to date back to the 8th century AD, when the Vikings settled here. But we'll have more on that after this commercial breakup.
Jonathan, I don't love you anymore.
Summer is here. Hey, Gary, we're all heading on down to Onchan Quad. You're coming, right?
You guys go. I'll catch up.
Feeling a little self-conscious in your own skin.
Oh, shucks. Well, Gary, don't take too long. You know summer only comes round these parts 3 months a year.
Had one too many chippy teas over winter, making your skin break out like Steve McQueen in The Great Escape.
I don't think it's that bad, really.
Don't worry. Here at Touched by Hinley, we've made it our duty to make you more socially acceptable and pleasing to the eye.
But I like how I look.
Well, here at Touched by Hinley, we don't. So, book your free liposuction and skin clearing consultation for just £300 today.
I don't really want to change my appearance.
Book your free liposuction and skin clearing consultation for just £300 today and claim back one family member.
What?
Call now on 07624 666 666 before anyone gets hurt, Gary.
Nan?
Book your free liposuction and skin clearing consultation now for £500.
I thought you said it was 300 quid.
£500. Call now, Gary, or pay an extra £400 to have the blood cleaned from your hands.
I'd like to book an appointment, please.
Touched by Hinley, helping you and society be better. Welcome back. Where are we at? Welcome back. You join me live from a very special area where the church ceremony is entering into its 17th hour. But going back to the so-called real history of Tynwald Day. The first time Tynwald Day happened was in 1000 occupied. The first time Tynwald Day happened was in 1559 AD on the 25th of October, which later became known as the 5th of July. A meeting of all 14 Manx residents took place at Tynwald Hill with two rival factions. It's the wrong gladiator music. It's the wrong gladiator music. It's the one that says gladiator steroids on it. There we go. Team King Harold and his mates' three sons were in the blue corner versus Team Lachlan, the custodian of Mann, in the red corner, who'd brought along his hardest supporters who'd even done time in jail for not paying parking tickets. After shouting a load of bitchy comments at each other, like, "Your dad's an alky," and "Your mum would get it," they battled at the foot of Tynwald Hill, which is a kind of biggish hill made fully out of tin, which I'm led to believe is a kind of harder grey version of cardboard. Who won remains unknown to this day, because I got very bored and couldn't be bothered finding out. Tynwald Day got progressively more uninteresting after that, due in large part to a governor. "All right, matey." No, not that type of governor. Governor Byron. Byron presided over Tynwald in 1429, at which trial by battle was abolished and trial by jury established. It was this decision that led to the nickname Boring Byron, which he became commonly known as by everyone, including friends and family members who stopped inviting him to big occasions because he was an atmosphere sapper. Soon after, in 1430, a session was held where 6 men from every sheading, I don't know what that means, were nominated, and 24 were then selected by the governor to be the worthiest men, also known as the Alicia Keys. His selections were based on various skill sets that he deemed to be worthy and included Drew McCladdock, who managed to do 11 keepy-uppies. Meanwhile, other skill sets, such as accurately using a boomerang or being a woman, were dismissed as unworthy, standards still held in Tynwald today. Things got slightly less uninteresting on the 10th of May 1765, when the Duke of Athol Street in Douglas sold the Isle of Man back to the English. This threatened the Tynwald Day tradition, and the event went on to not be held for 5 years in a row. a time that would later become known as the fun years in Manx history. Its return on the 5th of July in 1770 reportedly caused an outpouring of relief and enthusiasm by one person.
Yay!
Back here in modern timepiece, also known to some as now, I'm stood here among the crowd of people gathered at Tynwald for this Tynwald Day, and you can not only smell the excitement, you can really hear it too. And you'll also be able to hear the doors of the church opening as the church service has come to a close right on time, 22.7 hours after beginning. And now the Vips are beginning the long, arduous process of seeing who can walk the 50-metre stretch from the church to the bottom of Tynwald Hill the slowest. Just waiting. Can I just go? Fine, I'll talk about something else then. Tynwald Day isn't just for politicians and peasants. It's also for protesters. Protesters are people who hate the band status quo and want to shake up the societal norm for the better. And Tynwald Day acts as a box of matey for protesters to stand on and deliver their heartfelt messages. One of the most famous protests in Manx recent history happened back in the 1990s.
Some people say I look like me dad. What? Are you serious?
In 1991, a chap called Alan Shea presented a petition to redress because he was at Tynwald in pyjamas. But it turned out the clothes were just a red herring. He was actually protesting against the fact that homosexuality was still a criminal offence on the Isle of Man. By 1991, despite its neighbours England and Scotland decriminalising homosexuality up to 20 years earlier, there were still loads of things that were made legal here before being gay was. They included kicking a volleyball at a puppy, owning a sex pommel horse, exchanging your neighbour's teeth for money, pretending to be gay but only for other people's entertainment, firing a water pistol with gravy in it in a pensioner's face, sex parties so long as they're not gay, objectophilia, and mullets. Shea's courage was a success though, and Tynwald passed a law decriminalising homosexuality the following year in 1992. The same year, Woody Allen and Mia Farrow engaged in a very public, very nasty custody battle over their 3 children. Moving on to 2017, and feminists dressed up in costumes from the famous dystopian book The Handmaid's Tale for just £32.99 off Amazon.com, delivery not included, to protest the island's abortion laws, which were written years and years and years ago by men before the time men stopped being able to give birth. This also led to more laws being dusted off and updated. And more recently, in 2019's Tynwald Day, activists staged a 5-minute flash mob die-in, according to Wikipedia, to protest a lack of urgency from the Isle of Man government on climate change. The flash mob dying involved a bunch of locals who turned up at Tynwald Day Hill and pretended to die by lying on the grass. Another powerful statement. However, that year it was difficult to differentiate the protesters from people who'd fallen asleep from boredom and band kids who'd collapsed from being stood up so long. Finally, back in the nowadays Tynwald, and the Vips have finally made it to the foot of Tynwald Hill, where the tin sword is being passed to Chef Minister Alf Cannonball for the final and most crucial part of today's Tynwald Day ceremony: the human sacrifice. The name of the human sacrifice is picked out from a list of 12 to 18-year-olds from each parish on the island. The sacrifice made to the god of Tynwald, of course, the Tin Man, is to guarantee coastal mist throughout the year to keep foreigners from coming over. And this year it is...
And this year's sacrifice goes to... Derek Krellin.
Yes, you might be able to hear a little bit of hesitant clapping there, but I can tell you that is a huge collective sigh of relief from the crowd as we hear that your Tynwald Day 2023 sacrifice is none other than 12-year-old Derek Krellin. And as you can probably hear, no one is protesting that. The cheers and the clapping from the crowd is really quite prominent, as Derek is known by all on the Isle of Man to be a little shit who rides his BMX as slowly as possible in front of people's cars just to be annoying. And as he makes his way up to the top of Tynwald Hill, he turns and tries to find his parents in the crowd. They're not here, Derek, because they don't like him either. Anyway, as you look around, you can see the crowd are now putting on their traditional Manx masks, and we'll be able to hear in just a moment the traditional sacrificial music begin.
When you need a fitting memorial or headstone for a loved one,
I've got some of Derek on my shoes. And with that, another Tynwald Day comes to an end, and all that's left to close the day is the Manx National Anthem, performed this year by one of Derek's classmates, Sophie Byram. I'm just going to stop that there. One, because I think we all are aware that that isn't the Manx National Anthem. It's from Titanic. And I think we can all be honest and agree, regardless of the fact that she's 12, that was shit. And it was highly unlikely that it was going to get any better before the end. So, I'm Penny Farthing, and thanks very much for listening. Oh, for God's sake. Thanks very much for listening to this special live episode of Woman on Man, especially for Tynwald Day 2023 on this, your nation station.
You've been listening to an edition of Time for
Woman on Man
from June 2018.